former Hazelwood contractor blames last year's mine fire for his terminal lung disease.
The specialists have said my condition can only get worse.
His job was costing his life, basically.
Good evening, Ian Henderson with ABC News. A man employed to fight the big coal fire at the Hazelwood Mine last year has been diagnosed with a terminal lung condition. Contractor David Briggs was perfectly healthy beforehand, and his doctor says his ill health can only be attributed to the toxic fumes to which he was exposed. The fire started in February last year and burnt out of control for 45 days, prompting health concerns in the nearby town of Morwell. Gloria Kalache reports.
As the coal mine burned last year, covering nearby Morwell residents in toxic smoke and ash, those working on the fire front were desperately trying to extinguish it.
It's like digging up the ash in a furnace, pretty much, because that's pretty much the scenario you've got with the coal when it burns underground.
This is a video of the conditions David Briggs worked in as he drove an excavator. He was inside a cabin but says he had no breathing mask to protect him from any particles that leaked in. The day Mr Briggs entered the mine in March 2014, he had a full medical and was given a clean bill of health. But shortness of breath became stubborn flu-like symptoms and now permanent lung damage known as pulmonary fibrosis.
My condition can only get worse. So that's the position we're in now. So they can never make it any better for me.
From his history, I cannot identify any other causes that can create this problem for him, except his whatever he's exposed to in the mine.
Mr Briggs was employed as a contractor by RTL Mining and Earthworks, which declined to comment. But the mine operator, GDF Suez, says particulate masks were provided to all work groups and that anyone working below grass level in the mine had personal carbon monoxide monitors. The 55-year-old now takes 10 tablets a day and uses oxygen on a regular basis to help him breathe.
His job was costing his life, basically.
Can't improve my condition at all.
Can't do anything about it.
It just will deteriorate.
An inquiry into the health effects of the mine fire is set to reopen next month.
It needs to be studied, it needs to see what the health impact is, and it needs to be documented for history.
We want to make good, and that involves getting the truth and answers through a reopened inquiry, and it also involves potentially compensating and assisting families.
A lung transplant is on the cards for Mr Briggs because his condition won't improve. Penny and David Briggs say they're speaking out because they want others in the Latrobe Valley community to closely monitor their health. Gloria Kalache, ABC News.
Victoria's Hazelwood Mine Fire burned for 45 days last year and left hundreds of local residents struggling for breath and feeling nauseated. It also created fears about the long-term health effects for residents of the Latrobe Valley region. Now for what the ABC believes is the first time a doctor has linked one worker's life-threatening respiratory illness to the blaze. Samantha Donovan reports.
As a mining contractor, David Briggs worked for about 3 months to put the Hazelwood Mine Fire out.
The main object of our work group on night shifts in particular was to target the hottest areas in the mine, and a lot of those were actually burning down within the depths of the coal itself. So we were physically, with the earth-moving machinery, digging out all the hot spots.
Some of Mr Briggs' work was done in an air-conditioned excavator, but ash and dust would still enter the cabin. He also laboured outside to put the fire out, but says he wasn't given a mask or breathing apparatus to wear. David Briggs says his job was like digging the ash from a furnace, but on a major scale.
And of course you've got the pluming ash and the dust, and of course you've got the smoke as well, and you've got the heat. So it's quite a combination that you've got there.
David Briggs says just before he started working on the mine fire, he passed a workplace medical test with flying colours. But last October, coughs, aches and lethargy made him think he had the flu. His illness kept getting worse and he was struggling to breathe. GP Eddie Fu says Mr Briggs' specific respiratory illness has been difficult to diagnose, but it appears to be pulmonary fibrosis, a condition where the lungs become damaged and scarred. He believes it was brought on by Mr Briggs' work at the mine fire.
Just based on his Mr. Briggs' history, and he was deemed a very fit man. He doesn't even have any respiratory problem in the past. And it's only shortly after he worked in this mine, he developed all these quite severe respiratory symptoms. So to me, it's pretty obvious whatever he's been exposed to in the mine is causing him this lung disease.
Dr Fu says David Briggs' lung capacity is now half of what it was before he started working at the mine. And had the non-smoker been wearing a mask, he would have been at less risk of developing this kind of condition.
Yes, that would definitely help reduce the risk of him developing all sort of respiratory problem.
David Briggs was employed as a contractor by RTL Mining and Earthworks, which declined to comment. But the Hazelwood Mine operator, GDF Suez, has told the ABC that particulate masks were given to all work groups, and all work groups working below grass level in the mine had personal carbon monoxide monitors. Dr Eddie Fu says David Briggs may need a lung transplant, but medication is stabilising his condition for now. Mr Briggs' wife Penny says the couple's lifestyle has changed dramatically.
I've had to sort of do a lot of the chores now, like on the farm work and things. Basically, David can't do anything really. As soon as he starts to do anything, he's out of breath and has to sit down, and in some cases has to use the oxygen. We can't sort of go anywhere. We can't sort of drag the oxygen everywhere you go. And it's sort of very restrictive, our social life. Everything is just crashed. I guess that's probably the best word. Yeah. There's no social life, no holidays, nothing, basically. Our life is just glued to the house, that's it.
Penny Briggs fears other Latrobe Valley residents may get sick because of the fire and not realise the seriousness of their illness.
There might be other people that are in the same boat that think that they've just got the flu and they just can't shift it. And one of the other things we understand is that with smokers, the symptoms are again masked, and there could be a lot of people out there that are going to have similar, if not exactly the same condition, that the lung situation. I went down into Morwell once during that fire, and you couldn't see the person that we were going to have lunch with from across the street. It was that thick. So I have no comprehension really of just how bad it was down inside the mine, but the ingestion of that, all that smoke and stuff. And I guess now in hindsight, we should have realised.
An inquiry into the health effects of the Hazelwood Mine Fire is set to reopen next month. The Victorian Premier, Daniel Andrews, says he wants the inquiry to get to the truth, and he acknowledges compensation and more help for families may be needed.
That report from Samantha Donovan and Gloria Kalache.
The board of the reopened Hazelwood Mine Fire inquiry is urging people to have their say on the disaster's health effects. Community consultation sessions will be held in Morwell next Monday and in Moe and Tarogan the following day. The board says it's a chance for people to articulate what's needed to improve health outcomes in the Latrobe Valley, including changes to services. Information from the community sessions will be used to form recommendations in relation to the inquiry's terms of reference.